You're watching WGBS News Metropolis.
And Sam, I want to know what was it like having to play his enemy, playing Doomsday?
Well, Tom's about 7'2". I'm used to going on sets and being one of the taller guys. I'm 6'1", so I'm not, giant, but I'm pretty tall, I guess, 6'1". And you arrive on Smallville, and just, have you noticed everyone is just a giant on that set? Like Justin Hartley's like 6'3", Tom Welling's like 6'5". The girls are tall.
The heels.
It's yeah.
Tom wears heels. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, there was definitely there's one point where me and Tom are like grabbing each other, and I'm trying to choke him or something, and they made some comment, when they were shooting on one side, and they're like, you just look a little bit like you're kind of reaching up and you're hunched up like this. I'm like, he ate his Wheaties, man. What do you want me to do? There's nothing I can do. And so we actually, for that shot, I stood on my toes. So I was like, I got you now. Because I'm supposed to be able to kick his ass. In fact, when I met him, I walked on the set, and I don't know if he knew who I was, and I was like, hey, you're the super guy? Yeah? Yeah, I kill you. And he goes, oh, someone has to. So that was my intro to Tom.
So do they have a sign outside on the soundstage? You must be at least this tall to be on Smallville. Is that
honestly, I was the short guy on Smallville at 6'1".
Yeah, welcome to my world. Okay, let's get to the question. Okay, let's come on down to the front. This young fella right here.
Were you in the Doomsday suit?
It's always the kids in it.
No, dude, I wasn't. The cool thing about the Doomsday suit is I could be sitting around playing video games, and yet my presence is still felt on the set. I showed up for once. I think there was an episode, it might have even been, it was a big Doomsday episode. It was huge. I showed up for all of 4 hours of that episode in terms of work. So I showed up and played a scene for the first time that we see the creature, like I transform.
Right.
And I play the, oh God, I'm turning, oh no. And then that's it for me. And the rest of the episode, he's in it. And so I have all these people coming up, they're like, that was so great, man, that was such a great episode. Oh my God, you were awesome in that. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that. The answer to that is Doomsday in the comic book is like 8 foot wide and 10 feet tall, and I'm only 6'1", short. So.
Okay, next question.
I have a question. Do you guys think that Clark's finally gonna fly in season 10?
If I have anything to do with it, he will.
Can't I just take him up and drop him?
I tried to do that. Season 7, there was a scene where we're in the loft. I don't know if you guys remember it. Okay. We were teaching him to fly, and when we were rehearsing it, it was just basically a scene where I'm standing behind him telling him how to do it. And during the rehearsal, Tom and I were joking, and I kind of pushed him, and the director loved that. So they had that, I think they might have taken it out, but there's a shot of me pushing his elbows, and it's always fun because we get to add our own little humor to it, but I know how much everybody wants him to fly. I'm telling you, I'm trying. If I'm ever back on the show, I will try. So.
Now, we're shooting television. Now, granted, it's a pretty expensive show. It's not like a sitcom where they bang it out real quick and everything. But you still, production schedule, you guys got to get in and get out and move on to the next shot. But how much input did you guys have when you were on the set to be able to kind of tweak things and make it your own?
Quite a bit, actually. How did that work? Basically, they kind of came to me for the Doomsday role, which that was a big deal for me because I knew that I could get away with being a jerk. Okay? No, then I could change things here and there. I mean, I would sometimes write to them and say, well, shouldn't we do this instead? I think at one point they had my character, after he started having powers and stuff, they had him chloroformed, and I'm like, no, can't he just like hit him over the head with a pipe or something? And they're like, oh, that's great, boom, and yeah, so, and I would change things here and there on the set, and they would tolerate it. It's funny because the producers, one would come up to me and say, hey, doing a great job, just keep doing what you're doing, we're really happy with it. And then the other producer would come in and say, "Hey, you're doing a great job. Could you stick to the script a little bit? Thanks." So I took some liberties, and they seemed okay with it.
Yeah, and for myself, with I really didn't have a lot of say for the beginning of the series because they were very specific about Supergirl and how she came across. I remember my first day in the trailer in the full uniform, like our lovely lady here is wearing, and 5 producers came in, stood around me, circled me, and looked me up and down to make sure that I was what they wanted people to see as Supergirl. So that was intimidating, but eventually I got more say and put a bit of my own personality into her. But with dialogue and things like that, they really don't allow you to stray too much because it is very specific for the fans.
You guys, either of you interested in getting in behind the scenes on doing stuff? Doing any writing, directing, anything like that?
Eventually, yeah. You need a bit more experienced tailing directors, but yeah.
It's kind of like getting paid to go to school, though, right? To be on the set and watch what happens. I mean, it worked out okay for Tom, right? So
yeah.
Tom's a great director.
How about you?
I would love to be a writer.
Yeah.
Or producer. I love being behind the camera, almost more than in front sometimes. It's a little easier, but I've always enjoyed writing, so I'd love to actually have a few films that I'd like to write, one that I've written that people are looking at, so crossed for that.
Very good.
Yeah.
So this is for Sam. I was wondering, since you weren't, obviously you weren't the guy in the suit. How did you feel about, the big fight at the end of season 8? Did you feel like that was satisfying for your character, considering you didn't really get to do much with that?
Well, I mean, satisfying because I was collecting a full paycheck no matter what I did. So, are you asking like, what did I think of it? I mean, what do you?
Well, just because you didn't get to do anything.
Oh, yeah, I don't mind not doing anything, dude. I really don't. I'm okay with that. So, the thing, the guy Dario who was in the suit, he's a great guy. He was really cool, and because that's the thing. Okay, stunts on any kind of set. If you do a move or something like that, you do a fall. Let's say even in the mist, something as simple as like Bill Sadler hits me in the back of the head and I hit the ground. You do that 5 times, you're like, yeah, it's cool, and you're trying to hit the ground hard because you're trying to make it look good. Then you do it 5 more times, you're like, cool. You do it 5 more times, fine. But then around the 16th time, it really starts to hurt. I mean, really. They're like, are you sure you don't want pads? No, I'm fine. 16 takes later, you're like, oh. And even the simplest, it's like it's getting hit in the same spot over and over again. After a while, there's a threshold, and everything starts to hurt in that area. So I love doing stunts. I love doing all that stuff. But if someone wants to get in the big hot suit, sweat, have contacts, and do it for me, sure.
What do you think about the fighting and stuff, though? The real movie macho getting in your slugfest and all that sort of stuff. Do you enjoy that type of stuff, or?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, if it was more of a slugfest, I'd say I'd be like jealous. But it was more like people on wires getting thrown and stuff, which is fun. I mean, that's done a little bit of that. But between that and being Indiana Jones, I'll take Indiana Jones.
You're watching WGBS News Metropolis.